Okay, so now I'm live. I'm going to just going to check, make sure that everything is broadcasting properly. Okay, so it's working. So right now I'm confirmed that I'm broadcasting live. All right, so today I'm going to show you how I managed to model my blocked weapon, which I'm going to open up the previous original scene. Okay, so this was the original state of the weapon. So this is the blocked weapon which was demonstrated in the earlier video. And so after several hours, in fact about almost, I'll say 7 or 8 hours, this is the final version that I've got. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the earlier video, right, it is helpful to actually break your weapon into several parts so that you can concentrate on them easily. And also a good habit to maintain is to always keep your outliner and then the description of each part clearly labeled. Okay, this will make searching for the items much easier when you are, or when the number of items start to increase. So you can see that all this except for the rails that you see here are all capable of being subdivided, right? And you can see that I have inserted way more edge loops to end up to this state. So I'm going to open up an earlier version of the Maya. In fact, let me just open up another instance of Maya. And I'm going to demonstrate, like, for example, how do I create the handle grips, all these nuts here. So if you look at the non-subdivided version, you know that it's just simply, I added several edge loops around it, and then I've selected the faces, and then I've extruded it out. So I'm going to replicate this, how I created this handle. So let's start with the handle first. So I'm going to open up my earlier version. Okay, so let's see how we can model this. Now, for this particular handle, I've duplicated in such a way that it is there's a mirrored version on the other side. Right, so this will make my life a little bit easier when I model. So I don't have to model both sides at the same time. So I'm going to show you how to create a mirrored version of this low resolution model. So I'm going to hide these models. Okay, pressing H, you can hide the models that you don't want to concentrate on, or you can use the isolate view. That's entirely up to you. And I'm going to delete away this mirror piece. So when you model the blocked out version, you will have both sides of the weapon, or both sides of the handle. So you want to delete away half so that you can duplicate a mirrored version. All right, so how does this work? Let me just start off with a simple cube first, and I'm going to subdivide it on the width. So make sure, again, your orientation is facing the correct orientation. For me, the Z is always pointing this direction, okay, where the barrel is pointing towards. So make sure your cube or whatever, your object is following the same orientation as mine. And okay, so in order to make the duplicate, first you need to delete away half of the faces of your handle. Let's say that this is the blocked out version of your handle. Okay, let me just insert a few more edge loop. So select the edge first, okay, right mouse to insert, and then right now I have half, and then let's pretend that this is our handle and that we want to model it. So I just create a very basic shape first. So how do I create the other half so that I can join or match it together? The condition for this is that you must have the pivot center right at the dead center of this object. Okay, if I press D, I am able to change the position of the pivot. Okay, so I'm in move mode now, pressing W to go to move. But if you press D once, you notice that now I'm in pivot shifting mode. Okay, always remember your pivot has to be at the center line of the global axis. Okay, so once you have moved your pivot, okay, if your pivot doesn't, for example, if your pivot is accidentally moved to this location, you want to set it to the center, all you need to do is just go to the front view. Okay, make sure you press D until your pivot shifting icon change of manipulator changes to this shape. Hold down to the X key. X key will allow you to snap to the grid. So holding down the X key, drag the X axis, and then it will stick to the center portion of the grid. Okay, press D again to get out of pivot moving mode. So right now, your pivot is centralized. So once this condition is satisfied, you can apply a duplicate special. So go to the edit menu, apply a duplicate special, click on the option box to bring up the duplicate special options. Now the default of your duplicate special options, right, should be looking like this. Now we want to create an instance so that whenever we modify the original, the instance or the instance of the original will also follow. So we want to create an instance, but then we want to create a mirror version of this original. So if you look at these values here, the translate, rotate, and scale, we want to scale it in the x-axis, negative x-axis, -1. So you need to change the value into -1. And everything as default, and then hit duplicate special. So now we have a duplicate on the other side. So when we select the vertices, you notice that the other side will follow, right? So once you finish modeling the weapon, okay, now I'm just going to duplicate this. You'll notice that, okay, I'll just continue to work on this weapon. Now that you understand this duplicate special and how it works, we're going to focus on how to create these nuts here, right? Now, one thing about the duplicate special is that it's going to generate these things here. In your outliner, these are called transform nodes, right? So we will have to clean this up later on once we finish modeling the handle. Okay, right now I have a lot of subdivisions on this handle, so if I press number 3, you notice that the subdivision actually divides quite nicely. And if I go to the Xray view, okay, I already moved all the vertices until it roughly matches the position of the handle. I'm going to add one more edge loop at the bottom here. Okay, so again, how do I enable this menu? Okay, go to edge mode. Okay, hover your cursor over the edge, shift right mouse click, and then insert edge loop. Insert the edge loop close to the bottom so that I can pull in the extra detail lower. Now I know for a fact that actually this handle is hollow. The bottom is actually a hole. There's nothing much inside. So once you're done, you can actually delete the way the bottom faces. But meanwhile, we want to focus our attention on these extrusions here. So in order to save the amount of edge loops that I want to put inside, I'm going to plan where I'm going to insert it in. Okay. So I'm going to work on one first. So I identified that this group of faces is sufficient for me to extrude out a portion of the this grip here. Okay, and first I'm going to use a slide edge tool, shift right mouse click, slide edge tool, slide this further down a little bit. Now the slide edge tool is very useful for sliding edges while maintaining the shape of your weapon. So right now I'm just sliding this down the edge so that I have enough space to pull out this detail here. So press Q to go to select, right mouse click, go to face selection mode, select the 3 faces here, right mouse click, and then I'm going to do an extrusion. Now, when I extrude, I don't want to pull it out here. I'm going to do an offset. Now, if your model is very small and you try offsetting, you'll notice that it's very hard to get a precise control. So I suggest you hold down to your control key. Okay, hold down to your control key, and you notice now the values can be moved at a much smaller amount. So holding down the control while moving the offset allows you to have a fine-tuned control. Okay, so I'm happy with this. So right now I'm going to switch back to edge mode, select the edges, select the top edges here, shift right mouse click and use the slide edge tool. The reason why I'm using the slide edge tool is I want to maintain the shape of the handle. So I'm sliding it so that it matches the position of my grip here. So right now I have to switch to manual vertex mode, go to the vertex tool, manually move these vertices until it matches the shape of the grip. Okay, this grip feature. Okay, I'm going to scale them out slightly bigger because I noticed that this is actually protruding out slightly. So I'm going to select these three faces again. And this time I'm going to extrude them out in perspective mode. So press your space bar, go to marking menu, left mouse click, and then slide to the top of perspective view. Go to the side, holding down the shift, right mouse click, and then extrude the face, and then pull out a small section. Okay, and again, you can use your offset, holding down control, left mouse click on the offset text, and then move left and right until it tapers down into this shape. And we have successfully created our first nut, all right, or the grip. And if you press number 3, okay, you can see that, okay, it's actually quite reasonable, okay, to the shape that we want. And you notice that the edges here is very sharp, so we want to replicate that. So I want to select the edges here and this edge here, and maybe this edge as well. And I'm going to use a tool called a Crease tool. So holding down the shift, right mouse click, and crease the detail, okay, until I get it to stand out a little bit. So let me go to object mode. Okay, I'm going to hide the wireframe unshaded. Okay, so now you can see it is creasing out slightly. All right, so rather than duplicating the entire process to all the remaining 3 strips, okay, I'm going to show you a trick where you can actually remove this and then paste it on the upper portion of this handle. So what I'm going to do now is first take a look at your history. You want to delete away your history. The shortcut key to delete history is Alt-Shift-D. All right. So now it has been deleted, and I'm going to duplicate this portion of the handle, just a normal duplicate, Shift-D, and then I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to select only these faces that form the grip. Okay, I'm going to show you a quick way to select the center portion of the faces, Shift, full stop, okay, on your keyboard, full stop, or the, what do you call that, larger than bracket key, full stop, shift full stop to increase selection. If you shift comma, it will reduce selection. So this is a very powerful selection tool. I suggest you learn to memorize it. So now I have selected these faces. Then I go to select and inverse select, or Control Shift I. Then I delete away this face. So now I have one piece of the nut that is duplicated. Okay, so I'm going to push this back to roughly the same location. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the right view. I'm going to select the original piece, and I'm going to duplicate it to this top portion first. Okay, I'm going to go to level 1, unsubdivided view. I'm going to select these 3 faces, and then I'm going to delete it away. Then I'm going to select the duplicate. Okay, it should be hiding inside. Let me just try to move it out of the way first. Okay, so this duplicate, I'm going to move it up. Okay, I'm going to center the pivot, modify, center the pivot, so that I can grab the pivot a little bit better. So move this up, go to the right view, and move it into place. I'm going to press 1 so that it is not subdivided. And I'm just going to rotate this. I'm going to go to X-ray shaded view, and just roughly move them into place. Okay, like this one is good enough, and the scale seems to be about right. If the scale is not good for you, you might want to scale it down non-uniformly. Okay, and then now I'm going to duplicate another piece. Now before I duplicate, I'm going to select the top face here, the 3 faces here, and then I'm going to select this piece, Shift P, duplicate, and put another piece here. So what I did was I duplicate the bottom piece and then put it there. And what about here? I'm going to delete away 3 of these faces and place another duplicate on top here. So Shift V, and then place it over here. Okay, so now, how are we going to combine all these together? All right, because these are altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 separate pieces. So how am I going to join this together? So first, you need to snap the vertex to these holes first, all right? And since they have the same, the topology flows, okay? So I'm going to, let me just turn on wireframe on shaded so you can see where we plan to stitch all this together. So I'm going to vertex mode, select this vertex, holding down to the V key to activate the snap tool, middle mouse click and drag, and then snap. Okay, V key, middle mouse click and drag, V key, middle mouse click and drag to the target, V key, middle mouse click and drag. Okay, holding down the V key, middle mouse click and drag. Okay. All right. I'm going to do the same for the second piece here. Go to vertex mode, holding down the V key and middle mouse click and drag. Middle mouse click and drag to the point. V key, press the V key, press and hold the V key, middle mouse click and drag. Middle mouse click and drag. And the vertex behind, just snap it into place. And finally, this piece here. Now take note that these are still separate items. They have not been merged to the original piece yet. Okay, for these bunch of detail, I'm going to push it back. Okay, and this vertex V, holding down the V and snap, holding down the V and snap, holding down the V and snap to location. So now you can see that the object has been placed, or rather the grips detail has been placed into the handle. Okay, there are some areas that you might want to adjust using the non-uniform move tool. Okay, but problem right now is that if I were to subdivide this, there's going to be a gap there because we have not merged all these or combined these objects together. All right, so select all the items, the handle, shift select the items that you have aligned in place, then go ahead to mesh and combine. So once you combine, you notice that your duplicate has disappeared because right now the combined piece is totally different from the duplicated instance. So that's why it has disappeared. So we will have to replicate the duplicate special again. But we are not done with this because if I press number 3, you still see the gaps here because we have not merged the vertices together. So because we already snapped the vertices into location, we have to select all the vertices or vertices that have been snapped into place, and then you merge them. Now there's a useful tool that I highly recommend that you guys turn on, which you can see over here on the top left-hand corner, which is called the, let me just display here, the heads-up display. Okay, the heads-up display, please go and turn on this item called poly count. So the poly count will let you know how many polygons are being selected, how many vertices are being selected. So you notice that this is the area where I actually merged the two vertices together. You can see that there is a hole there. Okay, so if to verify that, you can drag a box over it and you can see that there are two vertices that are selected. Okay, two vertices that are selected. So we need to just drag over and select all the vertices, and then we need to apply a merge operation. Right, the merge default, okay, this is the default distance between vertices. Okay, we're going to use the default and then we're going to hit merge. All right, so when you hit merge, you will notice that there'll be a reduction in vertices, and because those vertices that are stacked on top of each other will become one vertex. And this time, to verify, you can press number 3 to subdivide, and you notice that now the handle looks fine. Okay, it doesn't have any gaps and any holes there anymore. All right, so now we have to repeat our duplicate special. Now you notice that our center has also changed. All right, it's no longer at the side here. So we need to go to the front view, holding down to the X key. No, sorry, before that, press D key to go to pivot shifting mode, holding down to X, and then slide it until it is at the center of the world. All right, press D again. All right, and then apply a duplicate special. Okay, make sure it's an instance and a -1 in the x-axis, and then hit duplicate special. Okay, so now you have the handle done. Now, if you've done a lot of duplicate special, a lot of combining and uncombining, right? If you look at your outliner, it will generate a lot of these transform nodes. So you will have to be very careful. You have to make sure that you delete away all the history before you delete away the transform nodes. Otherwise, you will delete the whole object. So I'm going to delete away the history, Alt-Shift-D. Alt-Shift-D is no more, and then let's check what object is this. Okay, this is the previous object, the previous handle. Doesn't seem to be anything there. So I can delete that away in my outliner, and now all these empty transform nodes, I can delete them away. So please make sure you maintain this habit of cleaning up your outliner. And now, instead of using the default names, I'm going to rename it as a proper name, handle. And then this is the duplicate, so I'm just going to call this handle 02, right? Once you finish modeling the handle, you'll be merging the two together anyway, but usually I'll reserve that to the last step, okay? Because for whether you're modeling a handle or whether you're modeling a car or airplane, anything like that, we'll always model one side until we are sure that everything, all the detail has been in, then we join the two halves together, all right? So for joining the two halves together, I think for this handle, I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. I'll just show you how it is done. So to join two halves together, it's just like combining the two pieces together. So select the two pieces, then go to Mesh Combine. So now it has become a single object, and you notice that the transform nodes are still there. Go to the front view. Make sure you go to vertex mode and select the central vertices. I'm going to press 4 to go to wireframe mode. Okay, then go to R, and then make sure you scale until the central vertices are touching each other. And you notice that there are 50 selected. So if I were to merge them, I should end up with 25. So edit mesh and merge. And now, true enough, it's now 25 because the two vertices have been merged together. So right now I have a merged single object. I can delete away the history, Alt-Shift-D, delete away the transform node, and maybe just call this, instead of handle, I'll just rename it as handle. So my handle is done for this one. So usually I'll reserve the combination of the state towards the end. Okay, so now this video is now running a little bit long, so I will just stop for now, just for this handle. Okay, for the rest, okay, I will stream another video later on.